Hi.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for agreeing to chat with us today.
Oh, it's all good. All good.
Yeah, it's about almost 10 o'clock here in the UK, and
Okay.
yeah, but it's a real privilege, and I guess the one things that over here, one of the things about our show is must be the music. You've released multiple albums, bigger, hit the charts, and you have all this success. So I think one of the things we wanted to find out was, we can read your bio about how you started and stuff, but it's not everyone that gets to play basketball that plays for the NBA. Not everyone that plays football gets to play for the NFL. It's not everyone that
Right.
starts to sing gets a number one record, global success. So I know you're from Flint, Michigan, but it isn't New York and LA where the music scenes were big. How did you start off at the very beginning, just to start singing?
Well, I come from sports. I'm a big football fan,
Okay.
and music was something that I kind of came home from football practice, and my mom bought a piano, a pool piano, and I got started writing songs just organically, a blessing from God. I would come home, fiddle faddle on the piano, and I would come up with these melodies, but I wouldn't think anything of it until the talent shows. And I would go to some of the talent show rehearsals. I'm like, oh man, I could never do this. And the girls started screaming for one of the guys that was trying out for this talent show.
Yeah.
I said, next year I'll be at the talent show. So that started me on this journey because I wanted to hear the girls scream. I wanted to get on stage and be this star in high school and junior high school. And so that's kind of how my music career started.
So your mom buys you a piano. Did you go for piano lessons? Did she know you could sing, or what was that?
I didn't even know I could sing.
Okay.
So she bought the family piano.
Okay.
And we took lessons for I took lessons for probably a week, and it was just too disciplined for me. I had to get there, and Miss Northrup was my teacher, and it just was so boring to me to sit there and learn the piano. I told my mom I'm good. So I was still fiddle faddle on the piano, and I just had this melody thing, probably from growing up listening to the blues, Sam Cooke. I grew up in Michigan, but I was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Okay.
Where, Sam Cooke was born, the B.B. Kings, the big blues guys. And I grew up listening to that from my mom and dad. And I think that's pretty much where I get that storytelling from.
Yeah, but because it must be a gift, because I much as I like to play piano, to write a song to the melody, could you hear it and then you just does it just come into you like an inspiration? Or
it's more of an inspiration because I like to let music come to me. So when I'm sitting down on the keyboard, I'll fiddle faddle until I hear something that strikes my attention.
Wow.
So I don't sit down with a predestined idea of what I'm going to come up with.
Yeah.
It's more or less sitting down, playing around, and all of a sudden, one day I'm going to hit a chord that's going to make me build another chord and build another chord. And from there, I usually create a song. And then on top of that, I'll come across with a vocal arrangement, and it just keeps growing from there. So I pretty much grow a song.
So going back to when you're in the talent show, did you say, okay, I'm going to sing a Temptations track, or were you then thinking, okay, were you writing your own? What did you end up doing?
I ended up writing my own song. It's a song on our second album. It's called It's All a Game.
What?
And I was in the talent show, and I was playing it, and some of the guys were like, all right, trying to clap me off the stage. And I stood up and did my hair back like this and said, I'm not done yet. And the crowd went crazy. And I ended up taking second place to my sister, who won first place.
Oh, goodness. Oh, my family. But then, what about the confidence to get on stage? Because that's also a big thing. Yeah.
I was the first talent show I got in. I think I was in the third grade, and that was the kiddie talent show. But when I got in high school, it was people are really staring at you and looking at you.
Yeah.
And I think that confidence, I just had to put that in the back of my head because I really wanted the girls to scream. So the fear and all that kind of like went away. And I'm like, let me just get out here and do my thing. I was nervous.
Okay.
But at the same time, I just like, I got to get it done. And that's what I do.
What about the football? What happened with football when you found this new talent? What happened to football?
I continued to play football. I ached today for football. Football is my first love, but I stopped growing.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped growing and football was no longer reality. My dad was a football coach, so football was ingrained in me.
Okay.
From a child, and that's still my love. But yeah, reality set in. I didn't grow anymore.
Okay. I guess you guys are Detroit Lions fans, or?
I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler, man.
Okay.
Since I was 8 years old, I've been a Pittsburgh Steeler fan.
Wow, living in Detroit, living in Flint. How far is Mr. Flint from Detroit? Is it?
It's like 60 miles north.
Okay, so you not necessarily you have to. Being from Flint, you didn't have to be a Lions fan and Sanders.
Nah, not necessarily. Yeah, 60 miles north, and I grew up in Flint. I moved out of the city of Flint back in 1986, so I kind of moved out to the suburbs outside of Flint. But I still have my family and friends and everybody. A lot of people.
Okay. Now, one of the things I noticed is you know, when you're doing research, is that you formed the group with your friend Gordon. Formed the Ready for the World.
Yeah, now, Gordon and I formed the group in high school.
Yeah. So so the question then becomes: is because you've already had the talent and you already had the exposure, what was the reason for wanting to be in a group as opposed to being solo? Because I just wondered.
The main reason why we did the group thing, it was in style. Other than that, there was no other reason, because Gordon and I, we started the group, but at the same time, when you have a lot of people in any type of partnership, there can come a lot of differences, creative differences. So our thing was to form a group because it was in style. It wasn't that we really needed to be in a group, because we were already writing and singing, and I was already doing the backgrounds and doing a lot of things myself.
Yeah.
And but you know, it was Gordon and I that were going to go ahead and do it. But we formed and got these guys from other groups just because it was in style.
Okay. So what were the groups that were, when you were coming up, that you were like looking and thinking, okay, you know, we can take a little from them?
I grew up checking out George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, man.
Okay.
That inspired me because of his creativity, the music, the theatrics on stage. His whole genius inspired me.
Wow.
Also grew up listening to Morris Day and the Time.
Okay.
I like that whole cohesive 6-member band action that Prince had put together.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Osborne with LTD.
Okay.
And Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson. These guys are just, you know, incredible. So it was a big inspiration. Did
you also learn the business side? Because, you know, George owned his own stuff, and you know, James Brown, they all owned their own stuff, but it was, you know, did you know about that before, when you guys were starting off?
Yeah, that's how we started. We started off, we had our own record label.
Wow.
Called Blue Lake Records. Our attorneys, Lloyd and Lloyd at the time, suggested that we start our own label. And so our first single was Tonight. And we put that out on our own independent label called Blue Lake Records. So we were starting to understand, you know, it's a great thing to own your own, but we didn't have all the resources to blow up without a major.
Yeah.
And so having the major really blew things up. But that's one of the reasons why we got our record deal, was because of the success that we had on our own independent label.
Wow.
I mean, we were only like 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, but where did that come from? Because even today, you don't get artists savvy enough to think about that. Who inspired? How did you think? You say you got an attorney, but that doesn't seem straightforward.
Yeah, they actually had a attorney firm in Detroit, and they loved the record. Electrifying Mojo, huge DJ in Detroit area, turned us on to these attorneys, and the attorneys, Lloyd and Lloyd, Leonia and Leona, suggested, you know what, we don't need to wait to put this record out. we can form our own independent record and just circulate it in the Midwest, see what happens. That's where we got the business sense to do our own label. We were still learning, because at the time I would have said, okay, well, sign us to our own label as a subsidiary of yours. But at the time we were still learning. And so we ended up just signing directly to MCA Universal.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so your first album that comes out though, what was the process of when it comes to, you know, the whole writing to production, you know, because you mentioned a few songs that you had in high school, but did you start off fresh when you signed up with MCA?
No, we were in the studio spending our own money. I spent we have in Michigan what's called open house when you graduate from high school. And parents of the friends of your parents, they'll come over and give you college money. So I took all of my $70 and I spent it all in the studio.
Wow.
And some of the other guys chipped in what they did, and this guy chipped in what they did. And we started recording our album with Bernard Terry. And we had 4 songs: Oh Sheila, Tonight, Deep Inside Your Love, and I think the other was I'm the One Who Loves You, something like that. And we recorded, man, and we did a demo, and Universal MCA heard it. And we were like, good, you guys like it, we'll go back in and redo it because this is just a demo. And they said, oh, no, this is working right now. What we hear, we want to go ahead and put out. The next thing I knew it, Louie Silas was mixing our demo album.
Wow.
So we had already tried to make it sound really great, but we planned on going back in and redoing a lot of the songs. But MCA was like, no, you guys are handing in some good stuff. Let's just mix it and put it out. And they were right. You know, I think it would have been better had we gone back in.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can't get the same spirit you had when you just developing a song.
Yeah.
And so you can go back and redo it, but you might not have that same thing. And I think what they heard was, no, this is working. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's what we know we can make happen and sell. And that's how our first album came together.
Yeah, no, I think the things that we kind of missed was the name of the group, Ready for the World. How did that concept come out, the name?
I wrote a song called Ceramic Girl on the first album. And there's a lyric in there that says, so nonchalant, laid back, and ready for the world. So when I wrote that, I was saying, you know, she was, you know, looking good to me without the makeup. And I'm so nonchalant, laid back, and ready for the world. And our attorney said, you know what, you guys should probably use that line, ready for the world. To me, it was too long.
Yeah.
I was like, I want something simple and cool. And they were like, no, I'm telling you, Ready for the World works. And they were right again.
But what were you calling yourselves prior to that? So you must have had a name.
We had a private boys school.
Okay.
Point Blank.
Okay.
What was the other name we had? I think Point Blank actually is still on our first record Tonight, because we hadn't come up with the name yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that Tonight that Twista sampled with Trey Songz? Was that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. They did a heck of a job with
Yeah. Still getting royalties on that, I'm sure. Yeah. But then, so when you guys started, you know, and I think one of the things I noticed with the in the 80s, so who were the guys, the groups that were on your radar when you're thinking, okay, we need to battle these guys? Not competitive, but just knowing that these are the guys we have to watch out for, because we need.
Right. You know, back then bands were the biggest thing, man. You had LA and Babyface was in a group called The Deal.
The Deal, yeah.
That was one of the people that we would be on the road with. Roger and Zapp.
Okay. Oh, good. It's amazing.
Yeah. Great. I mean, Roger, you know, great friend of mine before he passed. I had talked to him maybe 3 weeks before he passed.
Wow.
Another group, the Morris Day and the Time at the time was jumping out. Cameo.
Oh, there was a.
These were heavy hitters, man, that when you step to the stage, man, you got to bring it, because these guys, Cameo, Morris Day and the Time, I mean, these guys were killing it, man. Prince.
Well, Kool and the Gang, were they Earth, Wind and Fire? Were they still? Or were
yeah, they were still on the road. My taste was, man, I loved Earth, Wind and Fire. Love those guys, but they were more or less a big band as opposed to a 6-member small band.
Yeah.
So Function, Earth, Wind and Fire, these guys had like 20 people on stage.
Yeah.
You know, when they were performing. So, but to just have that 6-man, 5-man, straightforward jam session, it was competitive back then, because you got, man, heavy hitters, man. Heavy hitters.
And I think back when you started, the labels were a lot more patient with groups. I mean, they didn't, you know, I noticed you in your first album, you put, you know, what you wrote 9 songs, put out 6 singles. So they had time. Yeah, they had time for the bands. They weren't looking for 2-3 million before they think, okay, we've invested enough.
Right.
What was different back then?
What was big? Well, you have to have your Berry Gordy's and your Gerald Busby's. What I mean by that, you have to have talent at the record label as well.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of labels that have that type of talent, that has an ear as well as executive skills like a Berry Gordy or Gerald Busby. And one reason for the success of Ready for the World is Gerald Busby knew how to do records, knew how to place them and put them out, but he really pushed the records at radio.
Wow.
As opposed to today, it's kind of really a microwave type of thing.
Yeah.
Labels they won't stay on a record no more than probably 4 weeks. And then they're ready to jump on something else. Whereas back in the 80s and 90s, when they had a hit record, they worked that record.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between, you know, back then and now.
Yeah. You know, there's when I listen to a lot of artists, Gerald Busby and Louie Silas Jr., they almost rate them as, you know, they were the modern day Berry Gordy's, who really did a lot, especially on the MCA, for a lot of the black artists. And I noticed that Louie Silas Jr. Did remix on your stuff, but I noticed he worked with the Audition and the BVDs, and that's, so when he became an executive, what was it? So he just started mixing your stuff. Did you introduce yourself to him? What was that like? How was he?
By the way, you know, I love Lowell, man. He passed away. It crushed us when he passed. But we were introduced to Lowell by him saying, "Hello, I'm the new A&R at MCA. I'm gonna be mixing your album."
Okay.
So it was no other choice but to say, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Yeah, I got this guy, and I'll be mixing the album." But Lowell was a DJ.
Oh,
so
wow.
He understood music. He had that ear.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by, at a record label, you have to have an ear as well as executive skills. And Lowell understood, this is a hit, this is a hit, this is not a hit, this is a hit. And that's what made Lowell so instrumental. He used to call himself the 6th member of Ready for the World.
Wow.
So the seventh member of Ready for the World. So we would go to Lowell's office and he would have our poster, but he would have the art director impose his photo with Ready for the World. And that was, man, Lowell, that was my guy, man.
Wow. No, as I said, everyone talks highly about him, and there's no one you'd hear about that doesn't talk highly about him. So I was shocked to see that he actually did your stuff, remixed it.
Oh man, Lowell was my buddy. I would fly out just to hang out with Lowell.
Wow.
You know, so Lowell was that guy, man. Yeah.
Wow. So then, when you wrote "Oh Sheila," did you know that this is a hit, or did you think, okay, was this one of the?
I honestly felt it when we did it. I still have the first recording when we did "Oh Sheila" on cassette. The very first time we ever recorded "Oh Sheila" in the studio, I still got that cassette. Wow. And it was something that I felt when I heard it. And I've always said, if you don't feel it first, you can't expect the fans to feel it. If you don't get those chill bumps, if you don't have that, oh, this is banging, you can't expect the fans. So I'm very hard on myself when I'm writing. If I don't feel certain things when I'm doing a song, I'll probably trash it.
Wow.
And so that's the way I felt about "Oh Sheila" tonight. You've got to have an ear. A lot of artists can either have an ear but can't sing, or you got some artists that can sing but don't have an ear or don't have a production direction. I thank God that He gave me that skill to produce, write, compose, and sing. So that's a blessing from God, nowhere else. You know?
So you know, my auntie, when I moved to, I went to college in the US, and she lives in she's lived in Selma. Her name was Sheila, and so it was a song like, you know, I always remembered it was easy to, when I first got introduced to her. She was the first Sheila I knew, other than the record. Big record as it was. Was it named after anyone? Or was it just?
No, you know, I had, I had so many different. I had Lisa. I had a lot of O's before Sheila, and I met Sheila E. at the American Music Awards.
Oh.
And we spoke about it. She's like, "Well, was that about me?" I was like, actually, it wasn't. It's just some names that I came up. She's like, "Well, it worked." So, and I'm great friends with her family, and we joke about that.
Yeah.
But no, Sheila was just a name that I went through as one of the names for that song, because I already had the melody.
Yeah.
But I needed that name.
So did the melody come first? Did the melody you were just hearing?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, melodies always come first before I even write lyrics, before I even do a vocal arrangement. The music has to move me first. And if the music is banging to me, then I'll go ahead and situate myself within that song.
Yeah.
So I'll come up with that vocal arrangement, but it has to complement the music. So I usually never write the words first. Yeah. I may have a hook in mind, but I need to find now the music that'll fit that hook.
Wow. Now, do you use guitar or piano when to get the melody?
Either way, I play bass guitar, I play keyboards, piano, and I play rhythm guitar. So it might be on the rhythm guitar. Tonight, I wrote on it on rhythm guitar.
Wow.
Sheila, I wrote on bass guitar.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you said you're hearing the melody. So that it's because I guess it's fascinating to us is that the almost as if the songs are just floating in the air and just pops in, and you're like, oh, okay, this is and you just take it and go with it. It's just, you're not forcing it. You're not forcing it. Or
I just fiddle faddle. If I'm on the bass guitar, I might just sit in my bedroom, man, and just play around with it. And all of a sudden, I might hit a lick that I'm like, oh. And I'm like, oh, I like that lick. And then I might add something to that lick. Or if I'm on the piano, I might just feel like sitting down in my house playing the piano, and all of a sudden I might hit a chord, and that's how it happens. I let the music come to me. I don't, because I never know what I'm gonna come up with.
Yeah. So
I never know.
I mean, what you're describing is very much like a gifting, more so than just any person just singing, because I don't think any of us, it seems as if this is like a gift that you.
It is, yeah.
Songwriting.
Oh no, I'm always telling people, man, I wanted to be a professional football player.
Yeah, you said that.
It's kind of like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan wanted to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
But he was blessed with basketball skills. I wanted to be a football player, but I was blessed with musical skills. So it's God-given, man. And I always give God the glory, man. Always, yes.
So
yes.
when you wrote the songs, and now as a six man, was there sort of the deliberation about, okay, no, we don't like this song, we like this, or collaboration, or how was it back in those early days?
Back in those days, it was undeniable. When we would come up with a song, we knew it was in the best interest of us to be honest with each other. If we came up with a song that was banging, it's like, oh, I like that demo, bro. Let's go ahead and work on that.
Yeah.
Back then, everybody would present something that they may have done on their own, and then the group was supposed to come in and finish it up, play their parts, or either if I liked the song that somebody did, I would listen to it and say, okay, yeah, I'll go and sing it. So really, back then, it was almost about honesty, about, hey, man, this is banging, let's record this.
Yeah.
And everybody's supposed to go in after that and say, hey, let me play the bass line. John will come in and play the bass line. Gordon was supposed to come in and play the guitar. It didn't always work that way, but that's the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and I noticed you guys produced. It says, you know, the album was produced by Ready for the World. So you kind of took a collective. And one of my favorite shows was VH1's Behind the Music, and you know they talk about how everyone starts off well, and then money comes involved, and everyone goes their separate ways and stuff. But so when I looked at sort of you guys were producing the albums as a group, I wondered how much that took away any sense of, well, Melvin's doing all the work, you know, we're not doing anything kind of thing. Did it seem to work in helping you guys?
Well, it started off that way, with everybody coming to the studio and contributing. But after a while, you know, everybody's has a different view on what this and that should be. Yeah. And so you just got to respect what everybody else feels and what you feel. And my thing was always, it's about the music, regardless of whatever this, that, and else is going on. We got to get this album done, and we got to come out with some hits. Yeah. And so I pretty much stayed in the studio a lot of the time, because I knew that we had a responsibility, which was we got to come with this record. And Lowell is breathing down my neck, and Lowell is calling like, what's going on with the blah, blah. So I'm in the studio 24/7, getting songs done. And then some of the guys would come in, do their parts, and sometimes they wouldn't. So either way, if you did or didn't come in, this song has to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was no other way of doing it.
So this album was a big hit, and you know, for your very first release, global hit. Did that come too soon, did you think? Or would you have preferred, you know, to slowly ease, you know, go gold, then, or did you think it was like, wow?
I would take success any way it came.
Okay.
So, no, it was more or less about, let's keep banging it out, man. Let's keep on getting the hits out there. And so as it goes on, it just depends. Your record company has a lot to do with your success. Okay. You can have a hit record, but if your record company changes or does not promote it for whatever reason, doesn't matter how great the record is. Your record has to get that radio airplay, those visuals, that promotion and marketing. And one sour note that hit Ready for the World was when Gerald Busby left MCA. Gerald Busby was that promotion and marketing guru guy that knew how to push a record. Okay. So when he ended up leaving MCA, it impacted Ready for the World's success.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that for your second album or your third?
The third album is when we started to feel it, because Love You Down came on the second record.
Yeah.
Lowell and Gerald Busby was still there. And then the third album came, and that's when Gerald Busby was leaving at the end of that second album and at the beginning of that My Girlie album. Yeah. And so Gerald Busby came into the studio while we were even actually mixing My Girlie. And he just came in and said, hey, fellas, you know, I'll be leaving, going to Motown. But he did try to take us to Motown with him. And MCA wouldn't honor that. They wouldn't let us leave the label.
Wow. Yeah, because I did notice the change of the sales, but also the sort of promotion, and I guess, and I think Michael touched on this, you know, about how when he came out with his last Invincible album, how he felt Sony wasn't pushing, and for those of us on the outside, we don't understand, but you're saying it makes a difference how they take the project and push it and stuff.
Yeah, because record companies' relationship with radio, television is massive. And what they choose to promote and market makes a difference. What they take as a priority, and they go to radio and say, okay, oh, Sheila, this is our number one priority. We want this record, and we want to be hard on this record, whatever we got to do to make this. And then they'll make sure that you're getting the radio promotion, but you got to have a key guy that knows how to market and promote. That was Gerald Busby for us.
Wow.
Well, same situation with Michael Jackson. When his relationship with Sony, I guess, was getting a little shaky.
Yeah.
You could tell the promotion and marketing was not where it could have, should have been. Yeah. And he felt that. He knew, because he understands the business. He knows when the record company pushes that button about let's make this record heard. Whether it's a hit or not is one thing, but when a record company knows we got to make this record heard, we got to make this record sing, this video, they know how to promote it. And if you lose that key person, at that record label, you're
Yeah.
going to feel the difference.
Hmm.
That's the reality of the music business.
And I guess I wanted to get on to how it's changed, but before that, I wanted to find out about the change when you look at your album covers over the years. The outfits change and the image change, and even the sounds of the music. And one song that's, but they keep changing. How was it for you to then say, okay, we've got our sound, but we need to keep up with what was happening? You get to 91 and you're releasing an album and New Jack Swing kind of thing is out there.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, we need to sort of tap into this, but not lose our identity.
Right. That's one of those things as a producer, songwriter, you just got to recognize, and you're either going to recognize it and integrate that in who you are, or you're not going to keep up. If we're running at this pace and you're still running at this pace, we're going to go off and leave you. In the same way with music, you got to recognize what's working for that time or what's going to even be after that. And so that's just one of those things that you either got it or you don't. You either know how to work it and know how to integrate. Like My Girlie is that go-go beat from DC.
Yeah.
And go-go was starting, when we did My Girlie, go-go was that thing. Doing the button, all those.
Yeah.
So if you hear the drum tracks on My Girlie, when I did the bass line and I started fiddle faddling, I tried to get that vibe, that DC go-go vibe, man. So you just got to recognize it and hear it and move on with it.
I mean, one song that keeps popping in my head recently is Straight Down to Business. It was,
Okay.
I would have thought it was remixed by Teddy Riley. It was very much in that era and stuff like that. I mean, did you then think, okay, this is what's happening now, but I'm writing my own stuff, but I need to, as a group, did you produce it yourselves, making sure that you're still, it's what radio was playing?
Yeah, when I did Straight Down to Business, it was what I was hearing in my head, drum wise, as well as Lowell actually came in with Vercel and worked with us on the drums on Straight Down to Business. And so it was a collaboration from the original. There's two versions of Straight Down to Business, and there's the one that is the original, and then you got the remix that Lowell came in and said, you know what, let's make the beat a little funkier. And that's how he was so instrumental.
Okay.
Excuse me. And so yeah, you gotta recognize it, man, and hear it.
Yeah. The Love You Down. So I have a weekly playlist, and Mondays the Smooth Jams. I was surprised by the love that people had for that track. I mean, it was almost as if people said, "Oh goodness, we haven't heard this type of song in a long time." Yes, your good friends from the Good Girls, Dominique, all commenting like they're all hitting up, saying, "Wow, this is golden." Say hi to Melvin and everything.
Oh yeah.
What was it about? I think what's happening is we're starved with this type of, because the kind of music right now is very sultry, very, But I'm listening to this, and you're telling a story, very subtle, not forcing it around, and it's just almost as if, wow, that's almost making yourself vulnerable, and unfortunately the singers today don't want to do that, so they really hide behind music and production. But you stripped everything out. How did you know when you were writing this that this was a personal letter that I'm going to share with the world? What was it like?
Love You Down. I wanted to story tell, and I usually can see my music. So when I'm creating and I hear something, I just see it. And so Love You Down is more of a storytelling about a young guy in love with the older woman. And so I wanted to make it real intimate, up front, and one-on-one. And so I wrote it. I was in New Orleans when I first did Love You Down in my hotel room. We had a concert, and I would always bring my studio into the hotel room. If we had a day in the city, I would just bring my portable studio. And I came up with Love You Down in New Orleans. And so that's pretty much how that came about.
Wow. But when you were putting it together, did you think, wow, this is it? This is going to be... Did you know how it was going to sound?
I felt it when I was writing it, and when everything started coming together, I felt that goosebump come across as I'm writing, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's working. That's working. I can't wait till I go home and really record it, you know.
What about the vocal arrangement? Because it's, as I said, it's very subtle, very. I mean, as I said, I mean, listening to it, watching it again, and it's like, could you visualize how to sing it? So when you were putting it down?
Yeah, because like I said, I usually come with music first, and sometimes the vocal arrangement will come right away. Sometimes I gotta work and try to find a vocal arrangement. And with Love You Down, it was one of those things where that vocal arrangement, I didn't have words first, but the vocal arrangement came in while I was at the hotel in New Orleans, fiddle faddling around, and the whole vibe of it just felt good. So I kind of came up with that whole piano part with the vocal arrangement at the same time.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching. I begin to